Hi everyone, welcome along to episode 29 of Percussion Discussion. Hope you're all well out there and enjoying our interviews. I'm going to ask a little favor before we get into it. And of course, we have our social media platforms. We have a YouTube channel. If you could subscribe to that, I'd be really grateful. We also have a Facebook page and an Instagram page. So if you could like and follow us too, then that would be perfect. And of course, this means you won't miss any of the interviews that we've got coming up or ones that we've previously done. So thank you for that. On to today's guest, another legend of the drumming world, a man who has influenced the likes of John Bonham, some of the guys from the Big Four, Dave Lombardo from Slayer. He was the first guy to have the big bass drums. He started off his career with Vanilla Fudge. Since then, he's gone on to play with Cactus. He's gone on to play with Rod Stewart. He's played with Ozzy Ozbourne. The list goes on and on and on. It gives me great pleasure to welcome Mr. Carmine Appice.
No problem, man. Good to see you.
Likewise, mate. Likewise. It's very kind of you. So I always start like this. At the moment, it's the strangest times possible. You know, we're in the middle of a pandemic even. So what's going on at the moment? Are you managing to keep busy, Carmine?
I'm actually really busy. We moved to Florida back in June 1st, and my brother Vinny set me up with a computer to record on. Cool. And my brother Bill's computer is on the side. You know, so he built a really powerful PC and put in the Cubase 10.5 for me and got my first Focusrite, which is the interface. And then he set it all up as his house and made sure it worked. And then he shipped it to me in Florida. And then as I set up, I had Vinny on like a FaceTime. Yeah. And he showed me how to operate it and showed me how to use it, you know. So since then, I've been recording, and I did actually a Pink Floyd track tribute for Cleopatra. I did a song called Sheep.
Yes.
And then a few months ago, I also did Wish You Were Here, you know. And then I also did an Arthur Brown song, Fire, recently. And, you know, I did the Modern Drummer Festival for my studio. I produced a woman named Lisa G, and then I did an instrumental album with a younger guy than me. Anyway, let's put it that way. We did 14 tracks, and we got a new record deal for that.
Amazing.
You know, and we finished mixing a new Cactus record that's coming out. So now I just did the videos in my studio, the drum parts for my videos, you know, for the Cactus videos, and then. I signed a new deal with Modern Drummer magazine to release all my catalog of books. All right. You know, and they're releasing stuff that hasn't been out in years. And we did videos for each one to put on Amazon around the world. Yeah, sure. So we're just finishing all that up and editing that and getting the books done. Getting the books done as far as the print, getting them up online. So it's going to be a major push for Modern Drummer with my catalog, which I'm really excited about. So I've been really busy, you know.
So apart from the lack of gigs, which has hit everybody, I guess you've been as busy as ever, if not busier, perhaps.
Well, I've been busier, like in the studio and doing stuff like that than normal. But we did have a lot of gigs canceled next year. They're trying to get them going now. You know, so it might be in the fall, September-ish, August, September-ish, maybe. Vanilla Fudge gigs, Cactus gigs. We're working on a tour with Cactus, Pat Travers, and Rick Derringer. Oh, wow. And each of us have an album out on Cleopatra Records. Then we're going to do a record together, a blues cover record.
Brilliant.
With three songs each, and then 2 songs with all of us together. So it's going to be interesting. And you know, we're looking to put that all together for August, September. Incredible. And then there's some Vanilla Fudge shows that are coming together as well. And we're also working on, you know, Tim Bogert passed away. And last January, I got him to play on the last thing he ever played,
Right.
which was an arrangement of Vanilla Fudge doing "Stop in the Name of Love" by the Supremes.
Yes.
And we redid the whole thing like we normally do. And I got Tim to play on it, and then I recut the drums to Tim. And now we're doing the guitar. We already have the organ, the vocals, and the synths. So once we get all that done, we're going to try and release it on June 7th, which is the day we released "You Keep Me Hanging On" 55 years ago.
Because
four original members.
Wow, that's amazing. And if I've got this correct, would that be the third time that it's been released? Because wasn't it re-released originally?
No, this is "Stop in the Name of Love."
Okay.
First
sorry.
one was "You Keep Me
Sorry,
Hanging On."
I've got mixed up with the tunes. Yeah.
Yeah. But they're both Supreme songs, and we both did. Yeah, we did the same thing to both of them, kind of thing. Yeah, put the emotion and the meaning more into the lyric.
Well, look,
there's a lot going on. Just a lot going on.
It sounds like you've got your head around the studio technology quite well. If you're doing all of this,
I did. I couldn't believe it. So I'm now, I do stuff. I say, yeah, I'm Joe Engineer now. It's an American expression,
All these guys you've given a hard time to maybe over the years, and all of a sudden you're like, whoa, hang on a minute.
Yeah, now I see what it takes to do some of this stuff.
Oh, well, look, Carmine, if you don't mind, can we go back to kind of where it all began drumming wise for you? Because I mean, you have influenced some of the biggest and best ever. I mean, John Bonham being one. Who influenced you? Because most people cite John Bonham.
For me, yeah, I know. For me, I came before John Bonham, so I did. My influences were Gene Krupa, probably number one, Buddy Rich number two, Joe Morello, and Max Roach. I'd say those are the four. Because I got the showmanship stuff from Gene Krupa and that kind of showmanship groove on the drums. And then I got my fire from Buddy, and I got like time signatures and melody from Joe Morello. And I got all those like bum, ba da boom, ba da boom, ba da boom, all that stuff from Max Roach, except I did it with a lot more power and in a rock vein rather than in the jazz vein.
Yeah, it was you kind of reinvented. Well, you reinvented drumming in some respects.
Thank you. I tried to be the Gene Krupa of rock, is what I used to title. And back in the '80s when I was really pushing it, doing a solo album with the drums out front, and doing clinics, using the clinics as a drum show. Do disappearing drum solos and just glowing drumsticks when I was playing arenas. Just bringing the attention to the drums like Gene Krupa did,
Absolutely.
With a cool image, cool image in the photos. And, I wouldn't play any gigs without my full drum kit. I mean, I used to have a truck I owned, and I had a road crew that was always like, if I did one gig, they put my drums in the truck and drove it to the other side of America if they had to.
Whoa.
And that's changed over the years now, because I don't even carry the big gong around anymore.
But do you not? You still have it, though?
No, not really. I haven't. Actually, this guy, Don Bennett, who sells used classic drums, said he had a buyer for it. My thought was I'll sell it and then I'll buy another one, a new one. So I have a gong.
Yeah, of course.
But then I found out they don't make the size anymore. And mine was 52. Pasty only makes the biggest one now, 38.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah. So not only is the gong historical, it actually says BBA London on the back. Not only is it historical, but you can't get them anymore that size, 52-inch.
It's
on
kind
those
of
big stands. So I told him to raise the price a lot because, if I don't get what I want for it, I might as well just keep it.
Yeah. It's like selling a piece of history, isn't it?
It is. It's like a piece of history. It was in every band from BBA. After BBA, it was in the Rod Stewart group for 8 years. After Rod, Ted Nugent, Ozzy, Blue Murder, King Cobra. Went on tour with Edgar Winter. I had the gong. I went on tour with everybody. I had the gong.
So I guess is that the only thing? Would you say that's done every gig that you've done? Obviously, drums change, cymbals change. Is that the one?
Well, I always had, in those days, I always had a gong
Mm,
and a drum, a kettle drum on the side, a
Yeah.
small kettle drum.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, everything else changed. I had a wah-wah. I still have a wah-wah snare drum pedal. You know,
how does I've never heard it. What's that?
well, that was if you hear some of my records, like it happened actually in Europe with BBA.
Mm.
You know, I had the sound guy come up after the sound check. Goes, "Is everything cool? You need anything?" And I said, "Yeah, give me a wah-wah on my snare drum." He's kidding around. I come back and there's a wah-wah, one of Jeff Beck's wah-wahs, rewired with a Canon plug on it, sitting underneath my snare drum.
It's incredible.
So the bottom mic on the snare went into the wah-wah and a Canon plug, and out the wah-wah into the board. So when I wanted to use it, I had to signal him to shut the top mic off and just give me the bottom. And it goes like as I hit it, like that. And then eventually I developed it with Morley wah-wahs, so that when I press the button, the top mic goes off and the bottom mic comes on.
Wow.
And then I can turn it on and off whenever I want, you know.
That's incredible.
And I still have it in my drum pack that I use.
Yeah.
I still use that. You know, it depends on how much time we have to set up and what kind of gig it is and everything. But
of course,
I still have that in my power, you know.
And of course, you got into the big bass drum, the big drum sizes pretty early on, didn't you? You were kind of the
first one.
Yeah. And was it 26? Have I got that right?
Yeah, the 26 by 14s. And the way it happened was when I was in Vanilla Fudge, they started getting bigger amps. You know, Tim Bogan had 2 dual Showman amps. Vinny had a big Standell amp. Mark Stein had 2 Leslies with 300 watts in each one. And I had my bass 22-inch bass drum Gretsch kit. Yeah. And I used to put a mic inside the drum and put it in Tim's bass amp. All right. You know, one of them big old silver Shure mics, you know. Yeah. I don't use padding in the drums. I always use newspaper, ripped up newspaper. I learned that from Dino Dinelli back in the day. And then it got so loud that I found myself, I used to play like this and really play, you know, like, and I found myself playing like this, you know, really bringing more power to the drum kit. But the bass drum was still a 22 bass drum. No matter how hard you hit it, it still sounded like a 22 bass drum. You know, so, but I did record You Keep Me Hanging On with that bass drum. And the recording made it sound huge.
It did.
You know, but I was in upstate New York and I went into a pawn shop. And that's PAWN, you know, and I saw on the shelf, it was a 26 by 15 Leedy Ludwig bass drum that was old white pearl turned yellow for $5, right? And around the same time, I had bought a 1924 Ludwig 15-inch snare drum, Black Beauty, for $5. As well. I still have that.
Really?
Yeah, I still have it. I use it in my studio. And at the time, in 1968, I couldn't, all those catgut snares fell off. So I didn't have any way to get those. So I took those strainers off and I put on the 1968 Ludwig strainer at both ends, you know, and I put a regular pair of wire snares on it then, you know, being held on by string. Yeah, sure. At the time. So now I got a bit of a mutt. I got a 1924 Ludwig snare drum with a 68 throw-off system, you know, but it sounds great. And it's 15-inch, which is unique. Yeah. You know, wow. So anyway, so I got the bass drum and I said, oh, well, let me take this. So I took it apart and I took all the white pearl off it. And at the time, at Downbeat magazine, you were able to buy the pearl finishes, you know. So I had the red sparkle kit on the rest of it. So I got a red sparkle wrapping, and I put it on myself. You know, once I put it on, I drilled the holes from the inside for the lugs. I put it all back together, and boy, did it sound good. It was loud as hell. The only problem I had a Speed King I didn't have a speed. I had a Ludwig pedal at the time. I'm sorry, a Gretsch pedal.
Yeah.
Gretsch floating action. And it never hit in the middle.
Right.
But it still sounded big and fat, and unlike the other drum, and I had paper in it.
Yeah.
So then when I got my Ludwig endorsement, I said, you know what? They said, what size you want? I said, give me 2 bass drums. I always wanted to play 2 bass drums like
Sure.
Louis Bellson, because he was a bit of an influence when I got the bass drum. But make them 24, 26. They said, by 14? I said, sure. So we got 2 26 by 14 bass drums. Made of the new finish they had was natural maple.
Yeah.
You know, no wrapping, just natural maple. It made the drums sound better. So I said, well, while you're at it, let's get bigger tom-toms. So we got a 12 by 15 marching drum without snares.
Yeah.
As my small tom, and they thought it was the floor toms. They put floor tom leg holders on it, you know. And then I got an 18 by 16. Well, I got a 16 by 16 and a 16 by 18. And then after I got them, and I had a 6.5-inch deep snare drum, which they only used to use for concert orchestral drums.
Yeah.
Because everybody used either a 5 or a 3.
Mm-hmm.
So I used the 6.5. And it all sounded great, really great, you know, big. And the first thing I recorded on the 4th Vanilla Fudge album, I recorded it with that kit. It sounded amazing. And then I said to Ludwig, I'd like to get a bigger tom so it's more like a timpani. Mm-hmm. So we turned a 22-inch bass drum upside down, put a metal rim on it. And that was my big tom. I took away the 16, I moved the 18 up, and I had the 22. So it was 12 by 15, 16 by 18, and a 22 by 14 bass drum as a big tom on legs. You know,
That's
and
incredible.
that was an incredible kit. And then I used to have a Ludwig Kunga made of maple. I still have that. That's another thing they're going to try and sell. And those, they didn't make many of those at all. And we have a video coming out of Cactus live at the Isle of Wight, 1970. And it's clear as a bell, that kit with that Kunga on it and everything. Fantastic. You know, and I even designed a hi-hat anchor to hold the hi-hat onto the bass drum. So, because you couldn't fit the legs.
Of course.
You know, and then I had Speak King pedals, and they were fast, they were good. And I kept that for a while. And then when they came out with the Octoplus set, I said, you know what? The pedal doesn't hit in the middle of the 26. So why don't we do 24, but make it another inch of wood?
Yeah.
So I got 24 by 15s. So from then on, all my Ludwig bass drums were 24 by 15s, unless I ordered a 22 by 15 for studio, just for a variation, which I have 2 of those back in LA also. And so that's how it all happened.
Yeah. Have you stuck with those sizes then all the way through as well? Or have you, especially the tom sizes?
No. Because as I got older, I realized it was harder to play those drums.
Yeah.
And the PAs got better. I mean, in those days, we had no PAs.
Yeah.
I mean, when we went on tour with Jimi Hendrix back in the day and the Soft Machine, I had my own dual Showman amplifiers, as we had an endorsement deal with them for my drums. And I had a 5 or 6, 7, 8 channel Shure mixer. So I had the 2 bass drums. I had 58s or 57s on the bass drum. I had a 57 on the snare and the 3 toms. And I ran them all into my dual Showman amplifiers. And I put them up at the front where the voice of the theaters were.
Yeah.
There were no monitors.
Yeah.
You know? But, you know, by having them in the front and echoing through the venue, through the amplifiers, it made them louder. And then as PAs got better, by the time 1973 came along when I was with PBA, I had big monitors behind me.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't need the big drums anymore.
Sure.
And the Octoplus went from 6-inch all the way to, you know, like it was an 18-inch.
Yeah.
You know, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13, 14, 16, 18, you know, the whole bit. So I didn't need the big toms.
Yeah, sure.
You know, there were big toms at the end. And then when I got the kit that I used with Rod Stewart, I said, I like the Octoplus, but I don't like the single tuning. So I asked them to put on the bottom heads.
Yeah.
So I had an Octoplus head, double-headed.
Wow.
I was the first one to have that.
Nice.
You know? And then when in 1975, when Syndromes came out, I put the Syndromes inside the 6 and the 8-inch toms of the Octoplus. So when I hit them, they didn't sound like drums. And people were like, whoa, what was that? And it was part of the show, you know?
Amazing.
And I had that kit set up for a long time. And now I pretty much have the same setup. I have 24 by 15s. Actually, my D drums are 24 by 14s.
Yeah.
But again, you know, it doesn't matter. But in my studio, I ended up getting one of my 71 Ludwig bass drums back from my 71 days. And I put it in the studio. It was 24 by 15 maple. Man, that drum sounds amazing compared to the newer drums. So I got a left D drum and the Ludwig 24 on the right.
Yeah.
It's the main one. It just sounds tremendous.
I have a thing about vintage gear, and I like the way it sounds, but I also like the thought that it has a history. You know, you're the owner of your drums, but I don't know. I've got an old kit behind me. I don't know who's played it. And I find that fascinating, the fact that, like the 26-inch bass drum you bought, you know, all them years ago, the history, who's played it, where's it been played? You know, I like that.
Before I got it, you mean? Yeah. Yeah, because it was a Lady Ludwig. And you know, funny story is when I met Louis Bellson, I was doing a Joey Bishop show on TV with Vanilla Fudge, and they rolled out my big drums. And Louis came up to me. I didn't really know who he was at the time. I mean, I knew of him and everything and listened to his records. And he came up and goes, "Oh man, those are big drums." He said, "Man, we used to have big drums like that in the old days." I said, "Well, thank you." I was really proud. You know? I said, "Great." And then he goes, "Yeah, I play double bass. I play with the band." I go, "Oh, nice to meet you. What's your name?" "My name is Louis." "Hi, Louis." And he said, "Hey, here's my number. When you come out to LA again, you got a couple of days off. Let's get together." I play double bass. I said, "Oh, great." So I took his number, put it in my pocket, and I'm like, you know, I was a bit egoed out, you know, then I was a young kid and hit records and everything. My life is changing, you know. And I get in the dressing room, I take my pants off to get dressed for the show. We used to wear stage clothes. And the number falls out and I read it, said Louis Bellson. I went, "Oh my God, Louis Bellson." So I got dressed, I ran back out there, and I grabbed him. I said, "Why don't you say you're a Louis Bellson, man?" I said, "I listened to your records. I grew up on your records, blah, blah, blah." You know, nicest man.
Really?
Really, the nicest guy.
That's incredible. And it could,
really
wow. Amazing. Well, look, you know, you mentioned before about your book, you know, you're rebringing them out again. Now, and I know you were one of the first musicians in rock, if you like, to do the clinic thing, weren't you?
Yeah, I was the very first rock musician to do a clinic.
So how did that come about? I'm fascinated to know. I mean,
well, actually, Ludwig had a lot to do with it, because Ludwig, ever since Vanilla Fudge days, was pushing me to do clinics. I kept saying no because I was a rock star, you know. In those days, I was a pop star. And, you know, I haven't really become a drum icon yet. I was just starting. And after we got the big kit, all that, and then Led Zeppelin opened up for us. And then I got John Bonham, that same kit as mine, you know, and then we both had the same kits on the next tour. And they started asking me to do clinics. And I said, I want to do clinics, you know. But then when I wrote the book, 1972, this is like 3 years later, I went into a Sam Ash music store and I studied, and I went to my teacher who taught me a lot of cool stuff. So I always used to go into the music stores and look at the books, see what's out. And there was books by Buddy Rich. I went through the Buddy Rich book and the Ted Reed book and the Chapin book, you know, all the classic books. I used to see those, and then I saw one book by, I forgot who it was, Learn to Play Rock Drums. And in those days, I had really long hair and a beard, looked like a real hippie. You know, I had, leather suede jacket, and Indian boots went up to my knee,
Yeah.
And there's a guy on the cover with a pair of sticks like this going, with his hair slicked back like Elvis, learned to play rock and roll drums. I looked through the material. I said, this stuff is crap. I said, I'm going to write a book that if somebody goes through it, they can go out and play with a band. Right? So I was with Cactus, and we used to party a lot and wreck hotels and do all that stuff that people say are legendary. And so every night before screwing around with the band, I would sit in a hotel room and I'd write the book. I said, now, how did I learn to play rock? So I went through the first grooves that I did, but I wrote it like the Chapin book, real clear, 3 lines, because I wanted it to be easy for people, even if they didn't know how to read, can learn how to read somewhat this stuff, And that's what I did. I wrote the whole book. My attorney, who was our attorney, Vanilla Fudge, Led Zeppelin attorney, Cactus attorney, Jimi Hendrix attorney, big shot. So I gave him the book to get a deal. Comes back, gets a deal. He gives me a $500 advance. And he said, the best thing about the deal is you own the copyright.
Oh.
I didn't even know what that meant.
I bet you do now.
I know now. I knew like in the 80s. This is like 1973, 2. So I said, great. So we released the book. And when we released the book, then Ludwig said, look, you got a book now. You got to start doing clinics to sell the book. That's what Joe Morello does. That's what all these guys do. So we'll start you off with a Ludwig symposium, which is basically like a rock fantasy camp.
Yeah.
So on the bill was like me and Joe Morello and Ed Shaughnessy and David Friedman, the vibe player, and Lee Stevens, another vibe player, and maybe a Latin guy, and it's a week-long event. And I was going in replacing Joe Morello. And a rudimental guy, Frank Arsenal,
Yeah.
And that's when I met Joe, So then I said, okay, I'll do the clinic. So I went, that was my first experience of it. And then my first real clinic was in Long Island, where I lived, at Sam Ash Music Stores. And we did the clinic, advertised it. We did it in like a venue, We had 800 people there.
Jesus.
And I said, wow, this is cool. And we sold a ton of books. So I said to Ludwig, this is good. So we started doing clinics. I mean, I used to do 30, 40 clinics a year for Ludwig, and there was no one else doing it.
Yeah.
The second guy that started doing it was Cozy, Cozy Powell.
Of course.
And Cozy kept doing things with my career secondly.
Yeah.
All through the whole career, I was going to play with Jeff Beck, and I couldn't, and he did. And I got called to join Rainbow. I couldn't do it. He did it, And finally, I did it with him. He left Blue Murder, and I joined Blue Murder.
Did you know Cozy?
Oh, yeah.
Great,
very well.
Great drummer.
Good drummer and nice guy.
Yeah.
Nice guy. Into his motorcycles and fast cars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Never hear a bad word about Cozy Powell. Well, I haven't anyway. But
no, he's a good dude.
And you've had an incredible career, and I'm gonna just do a little plug. I've been reading this for the last. It's a good job. If I had hair, it would be curly right now. I've just read the shark.
Some of the stories. I know that's pretty crazy.
I won't ask you to talk about the shark passage, but if anybody is looking for a great book to read, somebody who's perhaps over the age of 18, get this book.
I see it has a parent advisory on it. That's funny.
I get why though, but this book is fascinating.
Well, my co-writer is English.
Yeah.
He wrote Ian Giddens. He wrote the Nikki Sixx book. I said to him, maybe you should take some of that out. And he said, you know what? All the middle-aged women are going to love that. And all the women, like I do gigs, they bring the book up and they buy the book, I would tell them, you know, this is like X-rated, and they go, oh, great, you know, and I'd sign it to them, or if they had read it already, you know, and, you know, but.
Well, I've read the
Yeah,
Nikki
if I wrote
Sixx
it now, I probably wouldn't put it in there.
book. I've read the Nikki Sixx book as well, and that one, well, the Nikki Sixx book pales into significance when you've read that. Put it that way. That's
well, I mean, this is the real stuff that happened. You know, I mean, this is what rock and roll touring was like. This is what it was. You know.
It's the story that really cracked me was when you went when you got home again after a tour and you went to see the Groupie movie.
Oh yeah.
When one of the girls was in it and mentioned.
Mentioned the Vanilla Fudge.
Oh dear me.
Yeah.
That was. I don't want to give it away. I'd rather people buy the book, but it did. It absolutely killed me that. But there's one little part of the book, but there's a couple of bits if you don't mind. And a lovely part of the book is where you first met Jimi Hendrix, which is a lovely little. Would you mind just regaling that for us?
Carmine? Well, you know, Jimi Hendrix used to play around New York. Matter of fact, where we live in the city here, in the Upper West Side, there was a club up here called the Lighthouse, and you know, looks like the Rascals, Jimi Hendrix, and everybody used to play different clubs before they made it big. So in one club, the Lighthouse, we had a guitar player named Ronnie Lejack who played very much like Hendrix. There was only 3 guys in town doing that: Jimi Hendrix, Ronnie Lejack, and this guy called the Wizard. He was a session guy. And so when we played the Lighthouse, we played with Jimi Hendrix. It wasn't he headlined or we headlined. It wasn't like that. It's like one band starts, plays 30 minutes, and the other band plays 30 minutes. And the other band goes back and plays 30 minutes, and the other band plays 30 minutes. And then about midnight, they would do like a half hour or 45 minutes or maybe more of a DJ playing, you know, Motown and all that stuff, and gives both bands a break. So when we take that break, you know, we go do whatever you want. So at one point, me and my singer, this guy Dean Parrish, who's well known in the northern soul part of England, we went up to this black prostitute apartments who was in like buildings like where Steve Smith lives now. And now they're like multi-million-dollar apartments. Yeah. But at the time, they were like, this whole area was, I don't know if you ever saw the movie Panic and Needle Park. Yeah. This whole area was Panic and Needle Park. Drug addicts, prostitutes, hookers, you know, just low lives, everything was out on the street. You know, we went up to one of their apartments and we were smoking a joint, and Jimmy would look out the window and say, man, I really want to make it one day. And I was smoking. As far as I was concerned, I didn't really care about making it. I just want to make a living playing drums, like my drum teacher. Yeah. You know? So we played the gig. I didn't see him again. I'd see him advertise on different gigs, Cafe Wah here or that, not my band, you know. And then it was like, I got into the Pigeons, became Vanilla Fudge. We made it. And then we're reading like, I might have been Billboard or Rolling Stone just come out. And I saw this guy named Jimi Hendrix making it huge in England and coming to America, playing with his teeth. Yeah. And Jimi Hendrix used to play with his teeth. He was Jimmy James at the time when I knew him, and the Vagabonds. And he's playing with his teeth. And I said, oh my God, that looks like Jimmy James, you know? And it was Jimmy James. So a few months later, I'm in England at the Speakeasy, you know, the Speakeasy. Yes. It was like the place to be. Vanilla Fudge played a gig there. And we played there. Everybody was there. Everybody, the Beatles and the Stones and this one and that one. And Jimmy was in town. So we were there like a few weeks before we were doing it, doing other gigs in England, but always basing out of London, doing the PR and the press. And so I walk into the Speakeasy restaurant and I see Jimi Hendrix in there. I walk up to him and I said, hey, I'm Carmine. I played with you at the Lighthouse in my group, the Beats with Ronnie Lee Jack, and he knew of Ronnie Lee Jack, and he said, "Oh, I remember that night." I said, "Man, do you remember us talking, smoking a joint, talking about making it? And here you are, you made it." He goes, "Yeah, I kind of remember that too." So I said, she said to me, "What are you doing here?" I said, "Well, I play with Vanilla Fudge." And he said, "Oh man, I love the Fudge." I said, "Wow, that's cool." So we hooked up again. And then later that week, he played the Saville Theater, which we were playing the week after that with The Who, you know. And we went to see him, and I got to meet Noel and Mitch. And then, you know, later on through the years, we did lots of tours together, you know. Matter of fact, when we toured with Hendrix, and I had those amps I told you about.
Yeah.
Mitch used to come up and go, "Carmine, you mind if I use your amps, your drum amps?" I said, "No, you can use my drum amps." So we take the mics off, you know, my drums and put them on Mitch's drums.
Yeah.
You know, and then when we came on, they went back on my drums. And you see, there's a picture floating around of Jimi Hendrix going up to his Marshall amps. He's like this. But if you look under it, you'll see it says Carmine on a Fender amp.
Ah, wow.
And Mark on another Fender amp top. And that was our top. Mark had a top for his organ, a Fender top. Like I told you, we were endorsed. He had the organ, the organ and Leslie's going through Fender amps too. And I had my amp there. So you see Jimi Hendrix over there adjusting his Marshall, and right under it says Carmine and Mark.
That's lovely.
Historical picture, you know.
Do you think times were much simpler back then? You know,
yeah, totally.
A guy mixing from side to side.
It wasn't a business yet.
Yeah, of course.
You know, I mean, everybody used to hang out on his back. There was no like security backstage. You know, we used to have punch flowing back there. People put acid in the punch. I mean, crazy stuff. You know, you ever stand Jimi Hendrix on the stage, just walk on the stage on the side and watch. You know, festivals, same thing. You know, and then you got where's your pass?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we used to travel around on airlines. We used to have the truck for all the bands from that tour packed, like a 24-foot truck packed with equipment, and would go to the airport, right onto the runway, right to the belly of the plane we were getting on, because we had like 30 people getting on that flight. And they unload all of our stuff, all the drums, amps, and everything, right into the cargo area of the plane. And when we land,
a regular plane.
The same thing. They land, truck would pick it up, go to the next gig. Right? So when they started doing the security on the planes, we made a joke of it with Cactus. We go, "What do you think? We're carrying guns?" And they said, "Say it again, you're going to be put in jail." It was unbelievable to watch that change. You know, so I mean, everything changed.
Yeah, everything kind of slows down at that point. Yeah.
And then it became a business. You know, everything was about business. I mean, back in those days, everybody made records. Everybody had a record deal. Everybody went on tour. We see everybody in different tours around. Everybody. We took so many people on tour with the Fudge. You know, that I forgot about some tours we took people on.
Yeah.
You know, from Zeppelin to Frank Zappa to Sly and the Family Stone to Three Dog Night to Creedence Clearwater. I mean, there's so many people. Then with BBA, we took Tower of Power, we took Foghat.
Yeah.
You know, and all these bands got huge. You know.
Incredible.
It's amazing.
Would you say you were happier back then, Carmine? Was it
happier?
Happier?
Yeah, I was more carefree.
Yeah.
I would say happier. I was more
youth,
carefree.
I suppose, wasn't it? Misspent youth.
Yeah, you're young. It's like nothing fazed you as much, you know. Wow. And now I'm very happy with my life. Yeah. I got the greatest woman I've been with for 18 years. Wow. In April. And she was a radio talk show host, and we get along great. And we do a lot of things together. We have investments together, real estate. We bought a house in Florida together. You know, this apartment here is hers, but we've lived here on and off for 17. I've lived here on and off for how many years? 18 years. Yeah, we have a house in St. Martin. Sure. That we bought as a house to to go to and to rent it out.
Yeah, sure.
So we've done so many things together.
Oh, that's good.
Unfortunately, we have no kids together, but I have 2 kids from another marriage.
Yeah.
And she was great with my kids, And the only weird thing we had was she was a dog lover, and I met her, and we had this Vizsla. Well, she had a dog called Tyrone, a big lab, and I wasn't a dog guy. Dog looking me in the face, I didn't get it. And he passed away young, and then she got a Vizsla, which was a bit of a monster dog, really big. He weighed about 70 pounds.
Right.
And same thing, But I became kind of friends with him by the end of his life, and he passed away. And then a year ago, we got another Vizsla, and this guy's a beast. But we got him when he was a baby, so I became like his daddy.
Yeah.
When he was little, he's looking me in the face, and I sort of started getting it, to be a dog owner. And now he's 55 pounds. He's still looking me in the face, and I don't care.
You transform.
And she busts my balls and says, I can't believe you can do it. You're letting him do that, and you never let Gomez do it or Tyrone,
Oh, dear me.
Yeah, so I mean, we have a great life, I mean, I'm still playing. I don't really have financial worries, and I got, I'm 74 years old. I got health issues from a 74-year-old, but I'm dealing with it. I feel good. I exercise. I play drums, and
Yeah.
I collect a couple of cars.
Well, hey, speaking of collecting cars, a gentleman I interviewed last week was I know a chap you're very familiar with, Nick Mason.
Oh yeah.
Now I know that you have played on a Pink Floyd track, which perhaps isn't that common knowledge. I don't know. Because as far as I was aware, Nick Mason had been the only drummer to do that.
No, he didn't even play one track on that album.
Did he not?
No, it was me and Jim Keltner.
Keltner as well?
Yeah.
Wow. Didn't know that.
And it was weird. Bob Ezrin, who I know for years, called me and left. I had the answer machine with a cassette player in it, and said, "Carmine, give me a call. I'm producing a band that's screaming. This track is screaming for Carmine drum fills." I said, "Really? Okay." So I called him, and I said, "How you doing?" So who's the band? He said, "Pink Floyd." My immediate reaction was, "Where's Nick?" Because we did gigs with him in England, Pink Floyd, in 1967, back in the day. And I said, "Where's Nick?" He said, "Well, Nick will be there, but his calluses are soft, and he's been racing his Ferraris, and he's, they want to get some new blood in this." I said, "Oh." So I went down there. My roadie took the drums down. I was there for 12 hours. I had so many 24 track tapes filled up with me playing that song.
Yeah.
And Nick was hanging around, talking to Nick, "How you doing?" "What happened here?" "My calluses soft." "What kind of Ferraris you in?" We got talking about the cars, and then I played and played and played. And then after that, I kept asking Bob Ezrin, "When am I going to hear something?" What I did. He said, "Well, give me a few weeks." I gave him a few weeks. I call him up, and "What's going on?" He goes, "In a word, fantastic." I said, "Good. When am I going to hear it?" He says, I'm working on it. Give me a call in a couple of weeks. I call him back. "In a word, amazing." So after like 3 or 4 times of one-word descriptions, I was up doing a movie called Black Roses in Toronto, and downstairs they have those malls, because in Toronto in the winter it gets pretty bad.
Sure.
So people go shopping underground, and I call him. And he said, and then I didn't get him, and then I find out that the Pink Floyd album was actually released. So I go downstairs and I bought a cassette of it.
Yeah.
I had it in, I had a Walkman at the time. I put it in the Walkman. I immediately go to that track, and I was blown away at the drum party put together.
The track was Dogs of War, by the way, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
Dogs of War. Yeah, and it
Yeah.
was like, you know, and I could see what my drum fills all over the place. I mean, you heard it, right?
Yeah, I know it well.
It's all over. There's Carmine all over that track. It's
big, again, big drum sounds, really big drum sounds.
Big drum sound. That was my. Which kit was that? It was 80.
Is it mid-80s?
I think that was my Pearl kit.
Yeah.
I had the same size bass drums, 24 by 15s.
Yeah.
10, 13, 10, 12, 13, 16, 18, and a 20 on the side, you know, and a 5-inch floating action.
Yeah.
Floating drum, brass.
Well, see,
cymbals.
Had I interviewed Nick next time, I'd have been able to ask him that about, you know, how was it watching Jim Keltner and Carmine Appice doing your song?
Yeah, and then you know, I found out that when the album came out, that Jim played on all the other tracks.
Wow.
Yeah. So they only brought me in for that one track. It's just like when I did the Paul Stanley album, I played on more than one track, and they only used one track.
Yeah.
And that's the track everybody talks about.
Yeah.
You know, because every time I did a clinic run one time. There are 6 clinics in a row. First clinic, kid said, question, what were those fills you did at the end of the Paul Stanley album? You know, I said, Together as One. I said, I don't remember what I did, but I'm sorry, I don't remember. You know, I have to hear it.
Yeah.
And nobody had the record. Next day, another question like that. I said, same answer. So finally, when I went to the third one, I said to the store owner, you have a copy of that Paul Stanley album, maybe on cassette? And somebody in the store said, yeah, I have a copy. Can I listen to it? So I put on my Walkman, I listened to it. Sure enough, for the next 2 or 3 clinics, everybody asked about that because it was around the time that album came out. It was big, you know, when platinum and everything.
Yeah, because all the solo albums came out pretty much at the same time, didn't they?
At the same time, yeah. And I did Paul. You know, I was really close to Paul then. You know?
Yeah.
So I was playing with Rod at the time, and you know.
Good stuff. Can I ask you?
Rod's funny. Yeah, but Rod's a funny story. I'd be playing drums and doing Hot Legs and doing all these songs, and Rod would come up and go like this to me. So after the shot, what's this? He goes. That's the dentist. Too many fill-ins. But I was with him 7 years. You know, he's a good guy. He wrote the intro to the book, as you know.
Yes, and well, you've written songs with Rod as well, haven't you?
Yeah. Do You Think I'm Sexy and Young Turks? That BBC special was just released here.
Yes.
At Rod Stewart's Story of Song, and I did it. I never saw it, man. I'm all over that thing. Wow, it's great.
So you've never seen it? Did you say
I saw it now.
Oh, you've seen it now, right?
I saw it last week, a few days ago.
Yeah, sure.
They said it was being released yesterday on Reels. Well, I didn't have Reels. And then my co-writer that's in there, Dwayne Hitchings, said, oh, you can find it on YouTube. So I went on YouTube and found it, and I looked at it and said, oh, crap, I'm all over the place. I even sat down at the kit, the Slingerland Pink Leopard kit, and played, you know, the 4 on the bass drum, boom, gak, boom, you know, just simple stuff. They wanted me to demonstrate something. So I said, all right. I did the demo of that and Young Turks, even though Young Turks was a drum machine.
Yeah.
That was the first song that ever had a drum machine that sounded like drums.
Yes.
And I overdubbed hi-hat and cymbals.
Amazing. You've had a hell of a career. You really have.
Oh, yeah. It's been crazy. When I think about all the fun things we did, you know, and all the firsts that we did.
Yeah.
Like Vanilla Fudge, the first band without a smash single to break the top 10 with an album. I mean, and then when Billboard Awards used to be on the Billboard page.
Yeah.
Yeah. In 1968, we won #2 for the background for vocals.
Yeah.
Number 1 was the Beatles.
Well,
you know, that's a good #2. You had a last question. What was it?
Well, I was just going to say about the vocal power of that band, because it's the look of love. I know there was very little drums in that.
Yeah, but the
vocals were incredible in that.
Yes. Just like Some Velvet Morning, same thing. And the drums were really, those are the big drums on that album.
Yeah.
Those are the big drums, and they sound big.
Did you sing backing vocals as well?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
And I sang "People Get Ready" too.
Of course you did. Yeah, yeah.
And then when I went with BBA, we did "I'm So Proud" because I sang "People Get Ready."
Yeah.
And then I was involved in the Rod and Jeff version of "People Get Ready." Because Jeff was hanging out with me. You read it in the book.
Yeah, of course.
He was hanging out with me, and we went to Dwayne's house. That same guy that's in the documentary, and we played this stuff, and it was, "People Get Ready," and then we got Rod on it, and it was great fun, And there's a YouTube of BBA playing "Morning Dew," where I sing it and I play in it,
Right.
and I'm blown away at my vocal power while I'm playing like that.
That's tough.
I was like, oh my God, I can't do that now.
It's like, to me, it's like a fairy tale. Your life, and I mean that in a complimentary way.
Yeah, I know. Me too.
There's one more thing I'd like to ask you.
I take it for granted.
Well,
I wake up. I'm me.
You don't have to pinch yourself.
Yeah, but my girlfriend, my wife, we just have our life together. She's her. She used to be a really huge radio talk show host here in New York for years.
Sure.
And she read it. You read her part in the book.
Yeah.
I had these nosebleeds. I still had a nosebleed. I almost died a few years ago of a nosebleed. I was in Europe, and I got a really bad one on a plane. They had to drop me off at the Azores, and she got me a medical airlift back to France and back to New York. And I had packing in my nose. One more day, I would have been dead. It was all infected. I'm trying to get like a movie made of that part of my life.
Yeah.
Because it had all the elements. As I tell the story to people in detail, they said, "Oh my God, what a great movie that would be." So I'm talking to somebody that's trying to do that.
That's good. Well, look, I appreciate you. You're a busy man, and I got one more thing to ask. And
I got an hour yet. I got another interview.
This won't take long, I promise. I've kept you too long already. I know. It's nice to get somebody who talks. The start of the book, Ozzy Osbourne, the Blizzard of Oz. You joined Ozzy at my favorite period of his time. He was not long out of Sabbath. The songs were incredible. How was that for you? I know I've read it in the book.
Well, it was great, because I was in France. I was endorsing Mattel Sensonics, and we were at a toy show convention in Cannes.
Yeah.
And my manager said, "Sharon Osbourne's looking for you." I said, "What did I do?" So he gave her the number at the hotel, and I talked to her, and she said, "Ozzy wants you to join his band." Where are you? I said, I'm in France. She said, "Oh, great. We're in London. Can you come to London on the way back to LA?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that's like it's really on the way back, right?" I said, "Yeah, okay," because I just played with Nugent. I was a spokesperson for Mattel. Young Turks was a song I wrote with Rod. It was high charts everywhere. Yeah. You Think I'm Sexy was still doing great. And, I was having a great time, So she said, "Well, play with Ozzy. That would be fun," So I went there and I played with the band. I knew Jakey Lee from LA.
Yeah.
And I knew Bob Daisley from, Spooky Tooth and all that stuff. And I knew Ozzy from Black Sabbath. Cactus and Black Sabbath played one of their first gigs they did in America at a club. It was Cactus and Black Sabbath.
Right.
So I knew Ozzy from there. And we almost got in a fist fight over a bag of pot. It was really funny. And, so I thought it'd be interesting, But I did know Ozzy had problems, with drugs and everything. He wasn't that together,
Yeah.
And so I went and we liked it. It was awesome, So then they said, "All right, now what we need to do is Ozzy's Tommy Aldridge recorded the drums, but we want you to go and be an associate producer on the album with Tony Bongiovi in New York, and and work with Ozzy to finish the vocals and all that, and help with the drum sound, because they weren't happy with the drum sound." I said, "Okay, I can do that." So we did. I went to London. I went to New York with Ozzy. I went back home, and then we scheduled. I went to New York, and I spent with Ozzy, and Sharon left Ozzy in my care, which I was blown away at, because I knew, he used to be alcoholic and a druggie, and difficult, to kick all that stuff. So, but he was great.
Yeah,
he was great. Matter of fact, at the time, New York wasn't a great place. We walked to the studio from the hotel, and he's got all these diamond rings on and stuff. I go, dude, put that stuff away. People mug you in this town.
Yeah.
So, we went in, we finished the album, and then we flew right to London to do the video, Bark at the Moon video.
Yeah.
And my drums were there, and we did the video. And then we were supposed to go into rehearsals for the tour, but they didn't have the right visa for me to go work. So I had to go back to LA, and I had to write charts to a show that Tommy did. Yeah. Like a gyp sheets for each song. And then came back to Europe and played the first gig, whatever it was, looking at my gyp sheets. And
straight in, cold.
I never rehearsed.
Right.
And then it was great. We went through the whole European tour. Was awesome. Band was sounding great. And then when we got to New York, to the States, I booked a whole bunch of master classes in front of every gig. So, and I had my own PR person. Yeah. My deal was I had my own merch.
Right. Okay. Really?
I had my own merchandise, because, I was coming out of, Rod's band, playing huge things, was selling millions of records with Rod.
Yeah.
I came out of Ted Nugent playing arenas. I had my own thing going with Rick Derringer at the time. Rick was still big, was Derringer and Appice. So my manager, even when I went out with Nugent, I had my own merch. My T-shirt said "Beat Off with Carmine."
Well, of course they did.
Yeah. Right. So anyway, so we had my own merch and everything. And I guess she really didn't like that, Sharon. So, and I would sell out these 50 students at $30 a head.
Yeah.
It was $1,500 a day. I'd give like $300 or $400 a day to UNICEF.
Yeah.
Charity. And I pull into a town, we drive overnight, I get into the town, I get a sound check, guy pick me up at the store, I go to the store, I do the thing, I come back, I eat some dinner. I still had an hour before I went on stage.
Sure.
Motley Crue was the opening act, and they were young, full of fire.
Yeah.
And many nights, Ozzy would be going, "Oh, bloody hell, I'm knackered, mate." And I go, "Ozzy, come on, man, let's get it. Motley's going to blow us off,
Yeah, yeah.
And then it went on, and she didn't like the fact that I was doing the clinics, and she said that I was tired. And I said, "I'm not tired. Ozzy's tired, if anyone."
Yeah.
And I would do interviews, radio, had television interviews, I had all kinds of interviews. I was getting as much press as Ozzy.
Yeah.
And she didn't like it. So basically, long story short, you can read the rest of it in the book. At the end of the Dallas show, which was an amazing show, the band was on fire. She called me to her office and production office, and she said, I said, "What's up, Sharon?" She goes, "I think you know her," the real smirky. And she says, and Tommy Aldridge is hanging around. So you seen Tommy here? I said, "Yeah, well, he's starting the tour on Monday. Yeah, I'm firing you." I said, "You're firing me?" I said, "Why?" She goes, "Your name is too big. You need your own band." That's what she told me. And then I ended up having a lawsuit, and we settled it. But I didn't want to do that. No. I wanted to play with Ozzy. I wanted to help write songs, help produce great drum sounds on his records, which I don't think he's ever really achieved, And then I find out while I was on tour with that Bob Daisley and Randy wrote all the songs.
Yeah, right. Okay.
And then that was Blizzard of Oz was supposed to be a band.
Yeah, right. I see. 4-way
split. And that didn't happen either. And that's why they sued her years down the line.
Of course.
And then she goes out and becomes a big star herself. It's unbelievable. But I love Ozzy. I mean, when I was putting King Cobra together, I took her advice and I got huge deals with King Cobra. and I bought a mobile, instead of renting a bus, I bought a motorhome. We were painting it at Mates where Ozzy was auditioning drummers again.
Yeah.
And they come up to me and go, "Hey, Mike, how are you doing?" I said, "I'm good, Oz. How you doing?" "What are you doing?" "I'm auditioning drummers." "Too bad, brother." You know, "What are you doing?" I said, I'm masking tape in my motorhome so we can paint it. He goes, "Oh, you need a hand?" I go, "Sure." So I got Ozzy up on a ladder. I had him taping the window with me with brown paper bag stuff on it.
Oh, beautiful.
Know? And then I said, "Hey, we're going to go in and play a set. Do you want to come in and listen to my band?" He said, "Yeah." So Ozzy came in, and he was the first guy we played the full set for. He didn't stay for the whole thing.
Wow.
But he was the first guy we ran to the set for that wasn't working for us or anything. You know. And then King Cobra came out and did what it's going to do. And then Blue Murder, you know.
Of course. So, look, Carmine, life is good for you at the moment. I'm glad to hear that. You've had an amazing career, and I can't thank you enough for giving up your valuable time to do this. And before we go...
I didn't ask you, what's the name of your podcast?
It's called North Wales Drum Promotions, and it's called Percussion Discussion. And you're number 20...
What's the first thing?
It's North Wales Drum Promotions.
Drum promotion. What does that mean?
It's just, I put on clinics and masterclasses normally.
Nice.
Since since lockdown,
I would have loved to done one for you, but after that nose thing, I'm not going anywhere out of America.
No, I understand. I totally understand. But look,
I definitely don't want a repetition of that.
No, I don't either. But before you go, I have to give thanks to our lovely mutual friend, Mr. Simon Kirk.
Yes.
For setting this up.
Simon's on our show next week.
Of course, we'll give your show a plug, please, Carmine.
Hanging and Banging, 7 o'clock Eastern Time in New York. Artists on Lockdown on Facebook and on YouTube. It's Hanging and Banging, Carmine Appice, Vinny Appice, or Carmine and Vinny Appice or Appice, however you want to say it. Hanging and Banging. And we got Simon Kirk and Kenny Arnoff.
Wow. You get some amazing guests on that.
Yeah, it's going. And you know what? We're getting picked up by Blabbermouth, and we're just starting a podcast ourselves.
Yeah.
You know, an audio podcast starting. And I got another buddy of mine working on trying to get a Netflix show of it, in which you talk to the guy, and the guy's interested.
Brilliant.
The Netflix guy says interested. So,
well, look,
if that happens, you know, and you know, we never would have done it, but the pandemic.
Of course. Yeah, some good's come from it.
I have a show called The Rod Experience, which I do. I have members of the Rod Stewart group and a guy that looks like Rod, and we go around and we do corporate gigs in casinos and make good money and put on like the 1978 kick-ass Rod rock show. You know, Losing You and Born Loose, Hot Legs. You know, we do Tonight's the Night. We do Sexy. We do all that kind of stuff. You know, I do the drum solo. And I get to play Young Turks live, which I never did because I was gone before that came out. And so when the pandemic hit, we had 2 gigs booked for really, really good money. The agent kept moving it, and said, "Man, we got to do something to keep, you know, all musicians that I book and you and other people in the limelight somehow on the internet." Yeah. So we came up with this idea, you know. Well, and Hanging and Banging with Carmine Appice, and then we got my friend Ron Anesta, who runs a theater that everybody plays outside Chicago. Yeah. And the first guest was my brother.
Of course.
And I said, well, let's get Vinny. Let's do it, Carmine and Vinny. It's more powerful with the 2 of us, you know. And then we, you know, it's a lot of jokes with the name and stuff. And then we started doing that. And now we got Thursday night we're doing DJs.
Yeah.
You know, radio people.
Brilliant.
Be a little different. And that's number 39.
Wow.
So the next week with Kenny and Simon's number 40.
That's going to be a great show.
Now we're booked all the way through till April 11th, I think. We got Dweezil Zappa coming up. We got Doug Aldrich and Tommy Thayer from Kiss. You know, we got we got John Payne.
Yeah,
you know, bass player from Asia, and his new singer from Yes, the new singer from Yes.
That's some. I mean, you've had.
No, I'm sorry. We got Billy Sherwood and Billy Sherwood and him, and we got John Payne and and is it? I forgot who else we got with John. We got somebody else with John Payne.
Great guest. I know you've had
really
Dee
good.
Snider, haven't you, and all sorts of
We
people.
had Dee Snider, we had Max Weinberg, we had Nico on, you know, we had Eric Singer, Derek Sherinian, we've had Vinnie Moore. We had a special tribute to Eddie Van Halen, which we had Ted Nugent, Steve Morse, Pat Travers, Rick Derringer, Bumblefoot, and Bruce Kulick. Then we had a tribute to Leslie West, which we had Bumblefoot, Corky Lang, a couple other people. We just had a great Tim Bogert tribute with Joe Bonamassa, Warren Haynes, Billy Sheehan, Jimmy Bavino from the Conan Show, two guys from the Fudge, and me and Vinny. And
wow,
you know, and God bless Tim, man. He was like a brother, you know.
Yeah.
Now he's gone. Now we're doing this song, "Stop in the Name of Love." It's the last thing he recorded.
Yeah.
All four original members coming out June 7th, 55 years later, the same date that Hanging On came out.
I look forward to that.
With the original band, with the 1971 bass drum kicking ass.
I look forward to it. Settle one, Carmine. Your surname, how should it be pronounced?
Well, since I joined Rod, we say Appice.
Yeah.
Because everyone said it differently. And Rod said, look, you're like 5 different people. And said, you're going to do a solo every night in front of 20,000 people. How should we say your name? Most people at that time called me Appice, and I would correct them to Appice.
Yeah. Okay.
I said, well, let's just go with Appice. And then Ludwig did an ad in all the magazines, rock magazines, when I was right. Everyone wants a piece of Appice.
There you go.
You know, it was a great ad, and it was in every rock magazine in the world.
Yeah.
So I said, let's go. And then my brother Vinny came out with Sabbath in 1980. Vinny Appice confused everybody. They're still confused. But it's fun. I mean, we did the Drum Wars video and DVD as a goof on that stuff. And it ended up being the Drum Wars touring show and the Appice Brothers album. So it's awesome.
Carmine, it's been a total and utter pleasure. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, man. All right, good to talk to you, mate.
Likewise.
Sorry I can't come and see you.
Thank you very much. Well, you take care of yourself and keep living that good life.
Okay, babe.
Take care. Bye-bye. Thank you.